Hit it.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Clap your hands. Some more. Let's get some more.
Well, hello, and welcome back to My Whiskey Den. And on tonight's edition, we are super excited because we have Ollie Mulligan from Great Wagon Road Distilling. We are so happy to have him on because everyone here knows that the three of us are huge fans of Rua. We haven't tried some of the other stuff, but I mean, once you have this, you kind of want to have the rest of the lineup. So, thank you everyone in the chat. Aaron Wheels. I was going to say, I saw a couple other people in there before, so we want to thank you for coming to the show and showing up early. Ice House, being on time. We appreciate the promptness of a few of you out there rather than the stragglers that come in a couple minutes from now. What are you guys all having out in the world? And what is everyone on the show tonight drinking right now? I am having my own Rua Portcast that Wheels in the chat he made it appear at my house is the best way to phrase that without getting anyone in trouble. So this is the one that is 61.
He's a wizard.
Yeah, it's a whiskey wizard. 61.7% alcohol in this one, but a lovely port bomb. What is everyone else drinking?
I'm having the Rua Sherry, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just sipping the standard Rua tonight, though gingerly, coming off a bad case of vertigo. So I want to take it a little bit easy, but just the standard Rua is fantastic on its own. So
I'm having a drop of the sherry myself, the sherry cut.
Very nice. And Design 9443 says, "Hey Ollie, must be someone you know, and if not, I'd like to just to come out there and be like, hey, how's it going?" We dig that. Spencer, nice seeing you drop in. Always good to see you. And thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you just taking the time out of your day, Ollie, because we know you're busy. Everyone's busy, and thanks for giving us an hour. But
an hour? I don't have that long.
Okay. If it's 15 minutes, we're happy.
5 minutes.
But we're going to condense questions then. But to start off, let's roll back before you. You have like a distilling history in your family. Does it go beyond your grandfather? But I did love your grandfather's story. If you don't mind sharing that just for a second.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes past the grandfather. His name was Patrick Quinn, and back in rural Ireland, back in those days, like a lot of people got together and made poitín, which is moonshine pretty much. Around Christmas and stuff like that, and his job, everyone during the rest of the year would make a little bit here and there, but everyone split up the portions of the distillation equipment in their various houses. So one guy would have the pot, one guy would have the fermenter, and my grandfather used to stash the condenser, which is the curly piece of copper. So it was a pretty sizable operation because when they were moving it between houses, he'd step in the condenser and pull it up over himself and put his jacket over it and then cycle his bicycle to someone else's house to drop off the condenser. But he got what happened, as my mother told me in recent years when I grew up a little bit, I could take more of the stories. One of the people that used to be included in this whole thing was left out one Christmas, and for various social reasons. But he was left out of it, and he went to the cops and got them all out. And it just so happened his grandfather was making the whiskey that day when the cops came. So it was the eve of Christmas Eve. It was the 23rd of December, and he was away. This was 1953, and he wasn't caught red-handed. He had left. My grandmother Mary came to him. She got the fright of her life when the cops came in. But he had cycled his bicycle, and he was 14 miles to the nearest town, Longford, to get his wet cell battery charged up to listen to the radio on Christmas. Isn't that unbelievable how far the country has come in those short generation and a half, But that was him anyway. That he made that stuff, and I grew up listening to the stories of it, and we grew up drinking it. You know, my mother used to make all kinds of weird stuff in the kitchen and douse it with this stuff and set plum puddings on fire, you know, on Christmas Day to take the eyebrows off at the table. You know? Yeah, that's where the whiskey heritage came from. And it was always, you know, I say in my blood. Kind of weird because it usually is. But it was just something that was going to come out, and eventually it did. And I'm glad it did, you know.
Oh no, that's awesome, and it's nice to have that that background to kind of pull from and have a little bit of experience and knowledge like that. Plus, I love how that adds. I think it just adds to more of what you're drinking when you start finding out how far back it goes when you get the little tidbit stories and extras to it. So I'm always glad when someone has that. Oh,
and
excuse
every
me.
now and again, my mother, you know, comes out. She's still alive, thank God. I was talking to her today, but the last time I was at home, she goes, "I have something for you," you know. And she goes into the room, comes out with this small sherry glass with the bottom broke off it, and I said, "You've half a sherry glass. Like, what's that for?" So this is what your grandfather used to put in under the spout when the distillate was coming out to test it. You had to break the stem off it for it to fit underneath that, and I kept it for it. And that's cool. You know, and I have it in the drawer right over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those things that that's one of the few things I want, you know,
Yeah.
you know, like when everything happens, I want this. Like in my family, there's a yellow mixing bowl that there'll be a fight over when things happen. My parents are gone. I'm like, for you, at least that's a really neat kind of cool thing.
But you had this big long story about someone's aunt had been an American, had bought it in New York, and had brought it back. So it's a whole American connection in the whole thing as well. You know, it's great.
That is sweet. Well, when you were thinking, what was kind of the turning point or a moment that gave you kind of clarity that kind of spurns you to kind of create Great Wagon Road?
It was. I worked for Motorola. You know, when I got out of college in Ireland, I worked for those guys, and that was back in the '90s. And Ireland was kind of a dodgy place then. And I decided one day I just applied for a green card. You know, one of these lottery things that they used to do back in the day, and I got it, and I split. And I came over here in '94, and I worked for Bell South and Nokia and a few other companies, and did my whole thing with corporate America, and I enjoyed it because the discipline of engineering I used to do was very, I would say, it has an artistic twinge to it. It's designing cell phone networks that are living, breathing things almost. And in the last about 6 or 7 years of that industry, it just got very tedious and laborious, and it just wasn't what it used to be. And I wanted to go back and make it something again. And so a buddy of mine owns a brewery, and we were kind of chatting one night. Actually, it was one Sunday afternoon, sitting in lawn chairs in the garage, you know, when all these great decisions are made. And looking at designing a still, and he was going to make some mash for me. And I said, well, I looked it up, and actually the permits are free. You know, all you need to do is apply for one. It takes a while. And he said, well, let's do it. So that November 2013, we formed, I think we call it Mulligan Distilled Spirits or something like that. We started off with a name, and it eventually evolved into Great Wagon Road. And I picked that because it's synonymous, number one, with immigration. The Great Wagon Road was that route that all the settlers took out of the New World into the South. And you see it mentioned every now and again. It was, the interstate of the 1600s, and it's how all the people came into the South. And it was mainly Irish and German came down that route, and that's why there's moonshine in the Appalachian Mountains, because of the Irish settlers that came down that road, brought all those traditions with them. And a portion of the road just past the distillery, North Tryon Street, was the old Great Wagon Road. So I said, well, there we go. It's local, and it's got something to do with immigration, and it's got whiskey in it too, and no one else had the trademarks, which is always good.
We have ran into a few other people that are like, we picked this name, and then all of a sudden 6 months later we got the cease and desist order, and we decided to change our name.
We didn't want to get too far, so we say GWR Distilling just to abbreviate it a little bit, and that's our logo, the GWR monogram, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's where that name came from, and it's a mouthful to hang up on a telemarketer, but that's why.
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cough at everyone.
Doctor.
So just getting into the whiskey in general, or everything that you guys produce there, where does the grain come from for a lot of the stuff that you guys distill there?
Yeah, that's an interesting story for that. You know, my wife's very health conscious. Obviously, you can see it hasn't really rubbed off on me too much, but I'm getting there. And if we're going to make something, like, why do it unless you're going to, like one of my old school teachers, you know, and it's a saying, if you're going to do something, do it well, you know, or else just don't bother. So I said, well, let's get the best we can. And obviously I wanted to make a single malt, so I needed barley. Barley is a cold weather crop, so it doesn't grow very well here in North Carolina. So a buddy of mine that owned a brewery, he was sourcing his barley from Munich, environment.
Okay.
And it was non-GMO, organic, two-row barley. He was buying it in such quantities that I could get a good deal on it. Popped on his order, and I said, "Well, let's start with that. And let's see what kind of whiskey." 100% is, you know, base Pilsner malt, pale Pilsner malt, and we went with it. And I just loved it, and that's how we stuck with the Wireman malting. Occasionally, we'll go with Canadian malting that does the same almost exact style, same style Pilsner malt, and there's hardly much of a difference in them at all. But that's where the malt came from.
Oh, that's cool. I was gonna say, it's for what you're doing. I was gonna say it is kind of hard to find a barley down there, a malt that's gonna be around. So that's cool that you're getting it from there, and also trying to
did a rye experiment with some North Carolina rye and North Carolina like 51% Pilsen malt, and the rye is a very difficult grain to deal with. It's like liquid nails sometimes, but it cost about 3 times more and yielded about 30% less. Now, part of that was my fault, but it was so. We're going to try some stuff with North Carolina grains here next year when we get our own billing system, because we're moving from the location we're at now to another location in Noda in the South Charlotte. So we're that's another interview.
Yeah, it's fine. Give me 1 second. And that's just kind of going through the distillery, kind of going from the grains to the stills. Do you guys name your stills? And do you guys use pot stills or column?
Yeah, we have a hybrid stiller. Her name is Brunhilde, and German beauty and all that stuff. She's made in Bavaria by a company called Cote Distilling Technical, and she's 3,000 liter, so 1,000 gallon still pot still with 2 columns for distilling vodka. Now the place we're moving to from the location we were at in February to the location we're at now has a lot smaller roofs, and Brunhilde won't fit in there. So Brunhilde has gone to be with her new owner, sadly, in Yorkshire, England. And
wow,
finer group of guys. I'm so glad they got it. So he's heading out that way. She was way too big for us, man. That girl.
That's cool though. That, I mean, you're sending everything back and forth. I was gonna say across the ocean.
Yeah, they were interesting guys. You know, I sent them. We sent them some of the fermenters too, because we're going to change how we do that a little bit. But they were just thrilled to receive the containers. Last week, actually, they got them and called me up, and the guy was there. Yeah, everything showed up in perfect condition. I got one question for you. What's the name of the still? And I said, you can call it whatever you want. It's your still now. Very bad luck. I got to know the name of the still. I said, well, it's Brunhilde. You know, and he goes, great. That's what she's going to be called then. So it's gone to a very good home.
No, that's. I'm glad when you get. I'm surprised how much of stills and other things kind of travel the world over time. You know, like you would think they would stay a little bit more local, but I mean, there are some that really do kind of move all over the place. So that's interesting.
It is the largest craft still in Europe right now. That one. That's what they told me on the phone anyway. So it's a huge still. And we were in that building we were in. Just had these massive roofs started shooting it. So that's why we went to that to try it out. Beautiful piece of shooting. Just way too big for us.
And I know we were talking before, but we know you guys used to use like the 25-gallon barrels. What barrels are you using now, and when did you switch over to something bigger?
Yeah, we did. We started off with 25s from Kelvin Cooperage in Kentucky, and Loughlin's lovely people down there that run that. And I had rang, I think, about 9 or 10 Cooperages back in, I think it was 2015 or whatever, when I was looking for barrels. And they'd laugh at me and hang up the phone when you wanted them, but there's a 2-year waiting list on those. So these guys are from Scotland, and I had a bit of a rapport with them and a bit of a banter on the phone, and they put me on the list, So we've stayed loyal customers ever since, and the Cooperage is state of the art down there. Something to do a little bit different in that Cooperage. When they burn the inside of the barrel, they use chips from the wood to burn the rather than natural gas or propane in some of these places. I like that. We did use Blackwater barrels in South Carolina for a while, but they've gotten kind of hard to get now. So we're doing a mix between back to Kelvin Cooperage and Bayside. We're going to give them a go. They're a little bit closer. But we started with the 25s to just age the whiskey a little bit faster,
Oh, yeah.
And after about the first 3 years, we switched to 50% of 25s to 50% 53s. And in the last year or so, we've been doing all 53s pretty much. Every now and again, like if we do a special batch or something, we'll stick it in 25s. If we're like that rye, that's all in 25s, just to see what we're going to get. We had good luck with them, And you taste the whiskey, and even some of our first releases were pretty young, and they were still quite drinkable.
Yeah, just judging from the barrels and the taste we were getting from them, we kind of assumed that they were all air dried for at least like 2 or 3 years, because you were not getting some of that really bitter tannic notes that you get sometimes from younger barrels or ones that weren't kind of like washed out in the rain for a few years. So we assumed the 25s you're getting were still very quality, because we've run across it a couple of times, but there's a lot of people that will use the smaller barrels, and all of a sudden you're like, I get pine tree or pine sap in the background of the whole whiskey. It's hiding in there.
It's the lowest 2x4 factor, I call it. It just it just doesn't taste right. But no, these guys killing wood down to 21% moisture. They take a huge amount of pride in what they make, and they're not screwing around with it. And the other side of that is they're more expensive than everyone else, right? So you get what you pay for. And when we were doing the 25s, we need to put in oak today. What we're going to harvest in 2 or 3 years. So we're going to produce this much whiskey, but we're only using 25 barrels. So we need twice as many of them, and they're the same price as the 53s, if not more expensive. So it's not. Some people tell you, oh, you're taking a shortcut. Well, it's an expensive shortcut, I'll tell you that,
Yeah, that's actually a little scary.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. It's like, well, then it just comes for me. It would be like, how much space do we really have for what we want to do?
And the other thing with that is, if you're a brewery and you skunk a batch, or the air gets out of there, or doesn't ferment correctly, you make more, but it takes me a couple of years to figure out if I did it right or not, and by that stage it's almost too late. So when we started very, very early on, we had 5-gallon barrels, and we used these as our early warning system, to see what we were doing, what we're right and wrong. And like with this distillation, you need help, like I could make pretty good whiskey at home and whatever. Sorry, I didn't say that, but like when you go on doing stuff on a commercial level, you need help. So we've been fortunate enough to have a couple of really good, proper master distillers help us out along the way. And in 20 minutes or over lunch, that guy will save you 2 years of mistakes,
And I think that's something that's really neat about the whiskey community. Not with everybody, but there is a lot of openness with trying to help or give like 2 cents or trying to save someone 4 or 5 years, because with a lot of craft distillers, 4 or 5 years could be the end of a business. By the time you get from A to B, and you don't figure some of that out, you might not be around. So I'm always surprised by how helpful a lot of people are.
And like it's we're all in the same boat kind of a thing. We all want each other to succeed. No one wants to be the island there, you know. And like I said, the tide lifts all boats. And you know, when I was out in Seattle studying this in 2014 or something, like the guy was telling me, well, you might be the first distillery in North Carolina or Mecklenburg County, but you better not be the only one ever, because you'll need these guys. Someone will be better at social media than you are. He'll raise awareness for this, that, and the other, and you all have your own little thing, you know. So yeah, it's such a tight knit industry, it really is, and it's great. Like the trade shows are fantastic, you know, and what we get up to.
So I got a question for you. What distillery or distiller inspires you?
Well, that's kind of a tough one, because it's kind of a love-hate relationship I have with I don't know how many people are listening. I don't get myself into trouble, but I have I was over in Pernod Ricard there, Jameson. I've been there 3 or 4 times, and the more people I know in the place, the better tours I can get on my own and the back of the scene and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. And they are doing some pretty good stuff, you know. And Jameson is what it is, but like, you know, Redbreast 21-year-old, you're not going to put your lips on a better whiskey. Some of the other stuff that they're producing there is just world-class products, you know. And to see how the distillery has formed and changed and grown, and the investment that they put into that place over the years is just mind-boggling. And so I do really admire them. You know, I give them shit, sorry, every now and again, you know, for this and that, but they are putting out some rock solid products, you know.
Yeah, when they started getting their smaller distillery for like some of the craft products, like the distillers line in addition, I thought that was kind of a neat way to be like, we're still going to make everything here at the big one to keep everyone happy, but some of us here want to play with stuff too, you know. we want to make. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ben. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was gonna say that whole Method and Madness line, and the Distillers collection. Those are all really good.
So Ollie, have you made your favorite whiskey yet? Or is that yet to come?
Which one of your kids is your favorite kid? Like, you know,
I can answer that.
God, I would say we did an experimental whiskey a while ago where we aged some. I know we haven't even spoken about Quins yet, but where we aged some Quins in a used Rua barrel, and we kind of forgot about it and was back there maybe 2 or 3 years and took it out, and that had all the subtle complexity of Rua, but with the absolute drinkability of Quins, and I think we knocked that one out of the park. And we bottled it and we never listed it, so the state didn't get any of it, and we just gave it away and just drank it ourselves pretty much. It was only a 125 gallon barrel. We did it as an experiment, but I think that Rua barrel rested Quins was probably the my favorite we put out so far. But there's a couple of guys have it in their houses and stuff like that get for this keepsakes. But yeah, we might try that again actually. But it's so hard to put so much stuff away and just leave it sitting for so long. But there's a couple of things in the pipeline that have all the what you call it, the pedigree to be great drinks too. And we have some. Sorry.
I just said nice.
Oh yeah, sorry. We have some aged Rua that's sitting in rum casks, and new fresh spirit Rua sitting in rum casks. And I lived in Texas for quite some time, and I love Garrison Brothers out there. So we have some of these 15-gallon barrels with some Rua that's been aged for about 2 years, and now it's gone into Garrison Brothers barrels, and some fresh Rua spirit that's gone into Garrison bourbon barrels. So that stuff should be pretty interesting when it comes out.
So was Garrison a specific choice, or was you just able to get those?
I've been to his distillery a couple of times. I chatted to the guy, and I think their bourbon has that cinnamon complexity to it. I like a little bit, and I just wanted to see how my spirit would interact with his barrels, and he's doing things the right way. Like before I started the distillery, I went down to check out his operation, and I was thinking, man, if I raise about $700,000, I can really do this. And I went down to visit his place. Went, oh sweet Jesus, $700 isn't even going to do the tasting room here. He's gone all out. He's got underground piping that the mash goes from one building to another. Like it's something else. He's gone all out, and he's all about the craft of it too.
When we were talking about some of your other whiskeys, we got designer was saying he was very excited about your upcoming bourbon and gin. And how much? I was going to say, how long is it before we see some of the bourbon? Gin, we just started getting into gin on this channel, so that's just vaguely exciting for us, because before we all had the horrible experience of it tastes like pine sol, or like the pine tree that you get air freshener in your car. But we've recently had one or two things that were actually really surprising, and we're kind of slowly working our way into gin as well too. But
we've hired another distiller who's got more experience in the gin world than we do, and she starts with us on August 1, and we'll shove it up on the website there when I get her bio put together and all that kind of stuff. And she's more experienced in that. I love a good solid gin and tonic on a hot day. It's a great drink. And when I was a youngster and we go out drinking pints in Dublin, after about your 12 pint of Guinness, you're full, so you switch to gin and tonics, right? That's the modus operandi there. But the gin is going to be called 704 gin after the North Carolina area code. And we decided we'd jump on that a little bit to see how people would react to that. The bourbon, we've moved away from the place we were in now. So before we were next door to this massive brewery, a 60-barrel Browcon mashing system. And so we've moved into another place that used to be a brewery. And as part of this whole deal, we acquired their brewery. So they have a 15-barrel brewing system. So that's going to leave us open to any grain we want to mash. So we're going to get into more rye and bourbons and all this kind of stuff. Now, it'll take us a while to put the bourbon out. I was thinking about sourcing some, but I said, do you really want to go down that road? Like MGP does put out some pretty good stuff, but so we'll see. We'll see about that. And I've drank in my own body weight in bourbon a couple of times. There's nothing wrong with it, And, so I definitely have a taste palette all over the spectrum for bourbon. I like, the $100 Garrison Brothers. I also like Ezra Brooks. I think it's a fine bourbon. I like Old Grandad. There's a ton of stuff out there that's just lower shelf, $15 is fine, It's fine bourbon.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff at the bottom shelf that is. I always tell people, they're like, well, what about this or this? I'm like, well, there's probably 10 whiskeys you can have that are decently brand names that are under $20 or 20 or under $20, and you're going to be really happy. Sometimes way more happy than when you spend 50.
Yeah, I know, right? So there's something else too that I left out when we're talking about the grains and all this stuff. Like anyone that makes whiskey, and I suppose to an extent too beer as well, like the water is very important. It's a key ingredient. And our water, we have a spring system up in Yancey County in North Carolina, or just about 30 miles north of Asheville. Excuse me. And this is where we truck in the water to cut and bring our whiskey down to bottle strength. So the water is key ingredient, and there's a good bit of calcium in that water. And the waters in North Carolina, a lot of minerals in them too. So I think that adds a lot of flavor to our drinks as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the gin works, with this water. We'll see how that comes out. But early tests are coming back very positive.
That's what we like to hear. And you're the one who goes to. Don't you go pick up the water yourself?
I do, because you know why? I can get the what out of Dodge for a night or two. We have a little cabin up there that is no grade shakes. You can see daylight through the chinking, and there's no TV. The phone only works in one corner of the porch. And I get up there and I crash for the night, and that's where I pick. We're on water system almost version 4 now. It was pretty rudimentary when we started, but as we went along, it was attacked by bears. It's been pulled apart by animals. So we bury the whole thing now and put it all underground, so it's all super reliable and everything. So, but that's key, water's key.
Oh yeah, that'd be a hell of a surprise to go up there to just like get your water, and all of a sudden it's tore apart with like bear claws in it and stuff.
I had no idea. When I got up there, I thought a bunch of kids on heroin or something were up there. It was just like wanton vandalism. It was pulled apart. There was a bit of a pipe over here, a bit of a pipe over there, and I saw all these like pad marks, mucky pad marks on stuff. And we had those totes, those 275-gallon totes. They're what, like 2,500 pounds a piece, full of water, pushed off the concrete pedestals and that. That bear was pissed, man. And one of the local guys was telling me they hear water trickling in pipes and they think there's something in there, and they go crazy to try and get it. But he also told me I was a fool to be up there on my own without a sidearm. And I'm from Ireland, like we're not allowed to have guns over there.
Just to come. Oh, Emily had a question from the chat. She was wondering if, with your bourbon, if you're planning on doing finished bourbons, as part of an idea that's coming out in the future. And by the sounds of it, it sounds like you do try to finish a lot of your stuff in like different barrels, or at least try it and see how it goes. So I'm going to assume yes.
Yeah, we're going to do that for sure with the bourbons, and we're going to do. We're experimenting with a tequila for a customer who wants tequila for themselves, that we're going to finish in Chardonnay barrels, and we'll see how that goes. That'd be an interesting one.
That
does, yeah.
Getting one of these permits is a pain in the what, so you might as well have a bit of fun with it,
That's true. I could only imagine how the TTB must love you must love dealing with them. With you're like, well, we finished it in this. Well, how long was it in sorry, we've heard so many other lovely stories about them from other distillers, that how friendly and useful they can be.
Well, I'll tell you about TTB, because I used to, in the last job I had, we used to get visas for people to come into the country and all that kind of stuff to help with these cellular networks and whatever. And for a government agency, the TTB have been stellar. If someone else can tell me there's a government agency out there that you can ring an 800 number and the person who answers the phone knows everything about everything, there's a one-stop shop. They've just been cool. So I don't have a bad thing to say about them, to be honest.
That's good. That's what we want to hear. Oh, excuse me.
So tell us about this move you've got going on. I mean, what are going to be the advantages over where you were previously?
We have a longer lease. We're in a tight spot with our landlord lease kind of business partner situation there, and this move has kind of allowed us to break away from people we didn't really want to be in business with in the first place, but in fairness to them, got us started to where we were. So when we started in North Carolina, it was illegal to have a bar and a distillery together. So there was two separate LLCs, two separate sets of books. We had to, bottle our whiskey here, ship it 180 miles to the state. They'd ship it back just to move next door. Like, it was very, very cumbersome and all this kind of stuff. And then last September, they changed the laws to say, you know what, you make the whiskey here, just walk it next door and sell it, And so that spurred on a change that we said, we had churches, we just need to put the two of them together. And so this new place, what we're going to do a bit differently is, when you walk in, you'll know you're in a distillery. There's going to be whiskey barrels. There's a window there, you can see the still. We'll be the first ones in the state to serve whiskey. I still think we are the first right out of the barrels. We'll get we'll have a barrel of Rua, a barrel of Queens. We'll have a guest barrel, which will most likely be a good, probably 9 or 10-year-old Eagle Rare. I think we have our eye on one of those.
That's nice.
That's going to be the one. And I'm going to copy one of the things I saw in Jameson last year, where you fill your own bottle out of a single barrel we pick. I think that's pretty cool. We were doing that anyway, a little bit more cumbersome, but they have a nice contraption for doing it. So we'll honor them with mimicking that.
And I love that about places when you're going to get to go. Basically, I think of distilleries now as kind of really punched up to like a tourist stop. I mean, maybe just it's me as a whiskey nerd and the rest of the group here. But like if I'm going someplace, it really adds to like why I might want to go someplace. And having an experience where you get to fill your own bottle really, I think it, like I said, adds to the memory, adds to the lore, adds to the excitement of why you were there, and kind of makes that story a little bit deeper and richer when you're there. So I'm happy you guys are doing that, because that's something anytime you go somewhere, it's like, I did this. Now it's special. Hopefully if we come down there, we can do that. And then I'll have to be like, is Ollie here? I need his autograph. Now this is complete, you know?
We did something. I remember I was, I don't know who it was. Someone's collecting the trash at the back, and I was talking to him, you know, and he was telling me, well, since China stopped taking all our trash, all the splash just goes in the landfill. I went, man, that sucks, you know. So we said we set up the bottle filler in the distillery with a tote of vodka in it. And I said, if you bring back your empty vodka bottle, you can fill it. We'll sanitize it, fill it. You can cork it. You can roll it. Do this, all this kind of stuff, and we'll give you a free pizza in the bar. And so we set this whole promotion up. Even if you didn't want to use your vodka bottle, we'd have pre-sterilized ones there that you could fill it up with yourself and put the cork in, do all this kind of stuff. Put a bunch of money behind it in Facebook, all this kind of stuff, and ran the promotion for 2 months, and one person came in and did it. Can you believe that? One person.
Yeah.
Right? And
that'd be the thing I do every time I came back. I'd be like, here's my box of bottles. You know, like,
yeah.
We had a little chalkboard there. We had like 0 bottles saved from the landfill. And then we had that chalked out. There was 1 bottle saved from the landfill. And when people come in and say, you know what, this vodka is awesome, can we get 3 bottles of it? We give them a choice. Well, you can use a recycled bottle here, or, oh, no, we'll take the other ones. Right? So it's, I don't know, it's some human experiment there, you know. It's everyone has great ideas about how they can help, but when the rubber hits the road, it's a different story, you know?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
So we had a question that popped up a while ago from Wheels in the chat, and he was asking if there was a special finish on the Legal Remedy barrel aged stout, or did they just they did for Frugal McDougal's, or was it cast strength?
That I'll tell you all about that barrel. I'm glad you asked. It's that barrel was barreled on one of our best employees ever, Katie Hamilton's birthday, and it was 4-year-old when we harvested it for a single barrel pick for Frugals, and there was 62 bottles of Rua at cast strength in that bottle, and usually a 25-gallon barrel would yield 125, 130 bottles. There's only 60 in there, so it's kind of expensive, but it was cast strength, and it came out at like, I think 126. Like, it was hot. And if you look at it on the Frugal's website, it has a picture of the old sticker there. But that beer lay in that barrel for a long time. It just came out recently. I don't know if they sold that or not, but they said it'd keep me in the bottle and give me the barrel back.
Nice.
So
with that,
answers your question there. It was hot. It was 126 proof, I believe.
That's even beefier than the port finish I have here. I think mine's 161.7, so I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
But let's also, just before we move forward, let's talk about some of the other releases you guys have, like the Quins and the Drumlish and stuff like that, just so that people can know a little bit more about the rest of your lineup.
All right. So
so I can drool a little.
When we started off, you know, this is Drumlish here, and I thought we were going to be the best thing ever making poaching, because nobody in the States was doing it. And we actually, this is the newspaper article from my grandfather got in trouble with the cops. We found it in the paper, and so it's on the label from the Longford Leader in January 1954. It was after Christmas the article actually came out. And Drumlish is the town that he lived in County Longford. And so we made this, and we thought we'd be great, but nobody was buying it, because we talk about single malts being an emerging category. Nobody really cares too much about poaching. And so we were sitting on a lot of it. And Kelvin Cooperage sent us a few barrels to try out, and then we put the poaching into new 53s from Kelvin Cooperage, And in 1 year, this product came out. And
Holy.
like it completely rounded off. This is a pretty harsh 100 proof drink, right? It completely rounded this whole thing off and made a beautiful product out of it.
I'm just amazed by the color in a year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we let me see if I can turn that so you can see it a bit better. But it's it's definitely a beautiful product there.
I like that.
That's a little bit cheaper than the other one.
Nice. Let's see. Oops.
Yeah, we got to get our hands on that one.
Yeah, that
Quinns
was something.
is like when people ask me about it, I say, well, Rue is just a fantastic whiskey, right? It's a great Sunday afternoon drinking whiskey. This is a shot on a Wednesday after work, when you're heading home, and it's a much better drink too. And I got the idea for this was one of the tours at Jameson when I was talking to one of the distillers as to how do you actually make Jameson. So this is reasonably similar to that product in how it's made, except we don't use caramel coloring or anything like that. So so I meant to mention that all our products are additive free. We don't use sugars, we don't use gelatin, we don't use caramel coloring, or like I said, flavoring. It's just oak and whiskey. And so Quinns is a good one. It's a sneaky little one. It's a great whiskey.
Sounds like you said, it sounds like a creep up on you. I kind of like that.
Oh yeah, 90 proof. And then we have we started off with a very hard to make. I don't even have a bottle of it here anymore. I think my wife might have drank it off. But we had a vodka, and then we came out with this one called Salamander. And this Salamander got its name from the wells, or the springs rather, where we get the water. And we bought the property from this old timer up there. He showed us where the water feed for the house was, and it was this ugly concrete like retentive tank, and he kicks the tin thing off it, and there's about 5 lizards swimming in the bottom of it. And I said, no one's going to drink that water. And he goes, oh yeah, they are. They're not lizards, they're salamanders. And when you see them in the water, you know that water's fresh and you can drink it. And I said, fuck, and that kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And I said, it's probably a good name for a product which 60% of the water. So that's where Salamander came from.
Now, you mentioned your wife might have drank the other bottle of that. Is there some that she wanted you to make that you guys kind of worked on? Just because,
money.
people.
Now, we're not there yet, just so you know.
That's fair. I can understand that completely.
She was a Grey Goose and Soda girl, so she's a Sally and Soda girl now. Because it's a sugar-free product, and she's on that whole 30 kick, so she can't have sugar, so she drinks it.
Take what you can get. Yeah, take what you can get.
Yeah.
Excuse me for 1 second. I will be right back. Sorry about this. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Temporarily lost them. So I have a question. So you have moved to a larger barrel out of kind of necessity, but are you trying to stick to a specific formula, or are you just so you can keep the integrity of your whiskey, or are you more going with the flow of I've got to expand, I've got to be bigger?
No, we stick with what works with us, and there'll always be some 25-gallon Rua in Rua. And that barrel that Fred Mimic lost his shit over, that was a 53-gallon barrel of Rua. That's a special release we did for Father's Day, and he loved that. And the other normal Rua that he tried was the 53 and 25 blend that we normally put out. So we've had good results from the 53 gallons. I mean, there's a good bit difference between the South Carolina 53 gallons and the Kentucky 53s as well. So we're doing a little bit more blending as we go. But No, Rua is our bread and butter. It's 58% of our sales, but like like I said before we went on air, it's the margin isn't great on Rua. It's a very hard product to make. But we have Ryan who runs Distill. He's pretty particular about how he likes to do stuff. This brew system that we inherited, we're going to change quite a bit of it. We've actually sold some of it to another brewery so we can replace it with equipment that we're a bit more comfortable with, because we just don't boil the mash. We specific boils and rests as we go through the process. But no, it's working and it's only catching on. Like, why would we change it now? And one of our first very early breaks was Garden and Gun in 2016, and that really helped the brand. It's just we have put zero marketing dollars into Rua because we just didn't have them. We were just making as much whiskey as we could with the resources we had, and we just we just been looking along the way, but like we worked pretty hard at it.
Sorry about that. My wife had fallen asleep, and my son was holding court with all his stuffed animals instead of going to sleep. And I could hear the discussion going on, and I'm like, I got to be right back.
Yeah,
he's doing his own live stream.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So, Ollie, what's your current take on the American single malt market right now? I mean, for me, I've got into it maybe a year and a half ago. Started with, I think the first one I ever tried was Balcones, their Texas single malt, and then Rua was probably the second. And it's really become one of my favorite categories of whiskey right now. There's been a number of them that I've been trying the last year that really enjoying, and it just seems like it's a market that's set to really explode.
Well, I certainly hope so. And there's even in North Carolina, a couple of more single malts now coming out. And one of the reasons why they do that, not one of the reasons, but there are breweries that are adding distilleries to their operations, and they have these silos full of malts. So they're going to use that and to make the whiskey over in corn, because you can lauter barley. They're just used to the process, and instead of throwing in the hops, they just take it out and ferment it and distill it, And so I think you'll see a lot more emergence of single malts. But don't get me wrong, I love bourbon, but single malts is where my heart is, and I think it's really how whiskey should. It's whiskey for me because it's what I grew up with, right? And so that's why I just don't understand baseball. And there's people that are fucking IQs of 130 love it, into it, And it's just whatever you're used to, whatever you're growing up with, And that's what I grew up with, barley whiskey.
You got an all-time favorite?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Redbreast 21 there from our French buddies, Pernod Ricard or Jameson, or you want to call them. But like that is, you should buy it in Ireland. It's a very expensive whiskey here. I think it'll put you back $380 a bottle or something like that. But you can get it for about 150 euros in Ireland in the duty free, and you won't taste better. It is great stuff. This I shouldn't be plugging other people's whiskey. Like, what the hell's going on here? But like, I bought this bottle in South Carolina last week. Bingo.
Oh,
and that's an interesting whiskey. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Which batch is that?
Let's see. Bottle number 3080. I don't see a batch number on the thing.
Sorry, probably 4 or 5. That's okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a very delicious whiskey.
Yeah, all a couple of releases I've had are pretty surprising. So, and just because I wasn't here for a second, so I'm going to spin backwards to a question. They were saying, Aaron was saying you should make the flaming salamander with hot peppers, like a hot pepper vodka.
Yeah, we tried that before, and like there's that's a good one. And we actually had sourced 50 pounds of jalapenos from the North Carolina mountains. So the whole thing went sideways there at the end. But there's a salamander called hellbender, and it's an endangered species because its pure water supply is in trouble. So we have a couple of Hellbender cocktails that we make with the salamander. Like flying pepper, that's a good. I don't think it's taken off, but like super spicy. Just make it yourself. Just buy the salamander and just do it yourself.
The only reason I see that is for like a Bloody Mary, really, is where I kind of lean towards when I get kind of like a pepper vodka or something like that, or even think about it.
One of these things during this whole COVID thing that's really been an interesting one is the numbers are out, for May, and like a lot of the sorry, my thing just keeps resetting itself here. Like no one seems to buy craft products in a pandemic, and like where we'd sell, 100 to 200 cases in our local county, we're down to about 10. But Tito's is up 34%, and like no one's ever been to his distillery. No one's ever been. It's just this, when you can't even get into the liquor store to buy something, you got to yell something from the door for someone to get it for you. It's in a blue bottle. No, it's that one. It's kind of thing. So as soon as this thing they let up a little bit on it, or North Carolina kind of loosens up the laws a bit where we can ship in state, or we can self-distribute in state. Some of these things, like if I could self-distribute, if I could sell my product to a person who's legally entitled to have it, I would probably pay the state 50% more tax per month than I am now. They're just in their own way,
Yep.
Yeah, we've had that discussion with other states. And Robert Licorice was in here a little bit ago, and just getting to be able to have people be able to stop by and pick up more than 2 bottles, it would be useful. You know what I mean?
Well, that whole thing in September that changed the law for letting me, sell my own product. That it's now not unlimited, but they can buy, a couple of things.
Good night, sweetie.
No ghosts tonight?
Yeah, she's heading on to bed tonight.
When you turn your head, it looked like you were saying that to Ollie.
Good night, folks.
Good night, Pooh Bear.
Emily was wondering, are they bringing back a port finish run of the Rua anytime soon? It was her big question.
Yeah, we're going to have to source the same barrels and do this, because I'd like to have some consistency to it. But yeah, we do plan to do that. We've got a major road ahead of us now, building out a new distillery and getting it open during a pandemic when no one's allowed to be in anywhere, and you don't want anyone to get sick. You don't want to be responsible for making people sick, and it's kind of a scary time to be. Every other bar seems to be closing down, and I'm the only idiot trying to open one up.
But it makes sense for what you're doing. When do you think your new place is gonna be up and running, that you could have people there if you were allowed to?
Yeah, we're going to do a phased launch on that. So we're going to do bar, then distillery, and because the distillery permit takes 120 days to come through, and we just signed the lease in this place about 2 weeks ago. So that's only gone in 2 weeks ago, or a week or so. It takes about a week to prepare the application. They're pretty complex. So I would say we'd have the bar business, portion of it open, hopefully first week of September. And please God, this thing will have blown over, or we'll have a better grip on it, or how to deal with it.
Yeah, I had plans of hitting a few distilleries by now. Yours was about number 1 on the list, for local, because I'm just a couple hours down the road down Interstate 85, and I keep waiting for this thing to die off so I can go do some visiting. But
and we were going to have him pick up a case for us of bottles.
2 cases.
Oh man. We're hopefully with no snags, because Mecklenburg County, they're pretty particular about, their certificate of occupancies and fire codes and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully, it used to be a brewery, and the lady who had the brewery before me, Bold Missy, she did a fantastic job with her build out with floor drains and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of the work is done, and we just need to kind of put our brand on it and open the door and get going. So we'll open with the bar, and then once we have the distillery permit, that's when we start serving drinks right out of the barrel, because we can't do that until we have that permit.
Sorry, I don't care if it turns out like the whole vodka thing you're talking about. I still think that's a great idea. Like just watching someone turn around and be like, and then shake up mix a drink for you is awesome.
It's the way to go, and like the beauty of that is it'll bring people back, because like the barrel will change every week. So you were in here last Monday and you had a drink at it, because it's so freaking hot. And usually we run the air when we're in the place around 85 or so. So the whiskey's going to change even in the bar, from week to week. And I can feel a bit more of this coming in it and what have you. And there's just a million things you can do with it,
Not that you might know this, but just because of the whole barrel changing thing, about how much do you guys lose a year in kind of angel share where you guys are? Just I would be able to compare to other parts of the country.
We have some pretty thirsty angels, let me tell you. And that's one of the reasons why anyone ever tells me like the 25-gallon barrels of shortcut, they get a kick in the gonads, because we put 25 gallons of new Rua in one of those, and 1 year later there's 15 gallons in it. So we lose 10 gallons in the first year, between 5 and 10 gallons, just from the oak absorbing, and then it's over in our last place, which had a pretty high roof. It was over 100 degrees over 40 days of the year, and then in winter we'd have to run the heating so the sprinklers wouldn't freeze. So this new place is only a 15-foot ceiling, and it's a tin ceiling with no insulation. It's going to be hotter than hell's hinges in that place. And so like we'll see what the share goes, but it'll smell great. I guarantee it'll smell great.
Well, just by the color you guys were getting on some of the stuff, I assumed it was semi-significant, because you guys were getting some nice rich colors out of it.
Excuse me. All of that's got to do with the barrel too. Calvin's putting out some good stuff, and it's expensive stuff, but it's good stuff. You just work it into the cost of your product and offset it that way.
Which we don't want to give you ideas, but we do think as an American single malt, you may be a little underpricing your product. We would pay significantly more, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but value wise, we think you have some room to expand on the price a little bit.
But please wait 1 week before you change that.
Here's what happened with the price. We started off, I think, at $47.95, and we got it approved in North Carolina at that price. And that's where we're doing okay with that product. And then we took on one of the biggest distributors in the country, and they're saying, that's not going to sell. It's got to be $39. I went, well, that's a pretty big bath to take on something. So with this and that, and we put it down to $39, and the product started to move. And you kind of have to take these guys at their word that they know what they're doing, bringing a product to market and a brand of this and that. No bar is going to take a chance on something that's going to cost them $50 a bottle, And if the bars don't take it, you don't find out about it, and then you don't. So it's kind of like we have to. Eventually, it's going to creep up a little bit, the price of Rua. But it'll go back down again. It's at $44 now in North Carolina. It'll be down to about $39 in about a month. And then at Christmas, it'll pop back up again, I think.
Well, it's still when we first talked about it, we were going, this is easily a $60 or maybe even $70 bottle compared to other single malts, and you wouldn't blink an eye for the quality you were getting out of it.
Yeah.
It's the best malt money can buy. I truck the water in myself. The bottle alone costs $2 for Christ's sakes, right? You're not going to do better, And so we'll see. All
right. From the chat, the Buckeye was wondering if can he get some great Wagon rolled Glencairn glasses? Do you have Glencairns at?
Yeah.
That is interesting.
We had we were selling them off there for a few bucks a pop. We had I think before we left the last place, probably 1,000 of them left. He sent an email in to one of you guys to slip it over to me and with his address, and I'll send him some.
Okay, that's cool. We can handle that. We might even hop on that ourselves. It's nice to have that nice little collection wall. Like I said,
I'm already giving away the single malt for nothing.
Well, just add a glass to the sale of a bottle of Rua, and raise the price to $65 because you get a free glass.
I can tell you a story. They were the number one thing stolen out of the bar, the glasses.
that's
the reason women have handbags. They never can find anything in those things. They just steal glasses with them.
at the husband's behest, like, hey.
Exactly. Where are you going to put it? Right under your hat? Everyone's going to know it's there.
You just walk back up. I'll take 2 more. What happened to the other glasses? They're still at the table. Like, and all of a sudden, there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
So do you go to any like, I want to say, like trade shows or kind of like festivals during the year? Do you get out to too many of those, or just is that kind of a little bit? Obviously, this year it's scaled down to little or none, but typically, do you go to some of those things?
Yeah, we do about 4 or 5 of them a year, and we used to do like the bourbon barbecue and all that kind of stuff, blues festivals. That was probably one of the hardest days work I ever did, when was doing in Atlanta on my own, the tent of bourbon blues and barbecue. And I got there at 7 a.m. and the VIPs start coming in at 10. And I thought to myself, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to sneak around here, sneak a few drinks, have a great time. I worked my ass off, and I got out of there at 3 o'clock, drove straight to the hotel, and went to bed. So that's what festivals are like. They'll wear you out, And I think I served 700 samples of Rua, and one guy spat it out in front of me. But I later saw him over at the Margarita tent, so he wasn't really one of our customers anyway. So we've done that. We do tastings in some of our best accounts, like the Red Dog Wine and Spirits. We do that. We do local events, the Irish festivals, all that kind of stuff. We do, the Ajax Turner trade show in Tennessee that's been cancelled now and moved to spring of next year. That's a great time in the Nissan Stadium in Nashville. That's a great time.
Which one is that?
It's Ajax Turner. They're the Budweiser distributors in Nashville, and they have a spirits division, craft spirits division. They put on a big trade show every year. So if you know any buddies in Nashville, they can get you in there. It's trade only. They don't allow any lay people.
That's
professional
fair.
only.
We've only had it at a couple things where we were surprised where all of a sudden we were media and we got media passes, and like, we can handle that. We can handle that.
Yeah, we're not with this distributor in Georgia anymore, but there was United Beverage. They put on a great show every year in Georgia. We did that a couple of times. Georgia's been a kind of a disappointing state for us. We thought we'd do well there, but it kind of trickled here and there. Virginia's been a good state. Like, obviously North Carolina's number one, and then Virginia, South Carolina are kind of neck and neck,
Okay.
And we're in Texas as well, and Mississippi as well. So I tell you what, Mississippi was an eye opener, man. It's I spent a whole week driving through Mississippi with sales reps. Those guys are on it. Those liquor stores in Mississippi are fantastic. They're state run but independently owned. So the guy that owns the liquor store is selling liquor, So
okay.
One in what town is Brett Favre from? What's the name of that town?
Kiln.
No.
I thought it was Kiln, Mississippi. I could be wrong. I don't remember.
I thought Favre's a Louisiana boy.
No, he's not. He's from Mississippi.
Oh.
Damn it.
Whatever it is.
Matt.
All right. Somebody in the chat know this?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, there's a liquor store in that town, and he has it looks like an Albertsons or a grocery store with liquor. Aisles of
Wow.
aisles and aisles of bourbon, an aisle of tequila. Just fantastic stuff. Like, you'd never think it, and they all drink in the store. Like, they just have to register there, trying stuff, and it's pretty interesting time.
That's something I've seen with other states that we don't do in Wisconsin. Maybe that's because they're afraid we would drink the whole bottle in Wisconsin. But just getting a sample or trying some of that stuff, I think it is a really good way of doing that. Like, if you have just like a a sample bottle set aside for people to try stuff if you have you have that much variety. But I would have never guessed that in Mississippi. Now I haven't been there, but it's I find it just weird at different places that you find great liquor stores. Like we were saying, Wheels, who find some of the stuff that we got from you or that made it to us. There's some great stuff that you guys have in North Carolina in some of the stores that we can't find here. Like we don't know if it's just a couple stores or if it's the whole state sometimes, but I'm amazed at some people that have liquor stores and are so beholden to like the standards, like just the big brands. Like we have a shelf. I'm like, you do, but it's Johnny Walker Red, Black, Double Black, and I'm like, and just all the big brand names that you saw somewhere else. It's just that there's 3 rows of each. Like it's not anything exciting in my mind. So that just a couple of them you mentioned sound awesome. Like just I'll have to go in and be kind of surprised and wander around for 45 minutes and come out with just 1 or 2 bottles, but be like, I have a list for the next time I go. I have a list of 10 or 12 bottles that I have to find.
If I ever make a ton of money doing this and I need to disappear, I'm going to disappear to Mississippi. That's a great state. I was in this small little town once. I come out of the hotel, I went into this breakfast joint across the street. And I'd never been in a breakfast joint that had a speed rail full of liquor. And there was people doing shots. Like it was unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Bring me back to maybe my college days, but yeah, I can respect that in the morning.
It was Wednesday. It's like it was
Friday.
Oh my goodness,
that's awesome. Now we're getting a little bit over an hour, and we don't want to keep you too long. But what are some of the releases you have coming out this year still that you would like to tell the audience about?
Yeah, I'm going to send you, if you want to put it out, the label for 704 gin. It's already been done, and so that's coming out here soon. And it's a nice label. And what else have we got coming out? Yeah, that's going to be it for a while. There's 1 or 2 little things I don't want to release yet. I just want to make sure that they're okay before I broadcast it. But for sure, since we have label approval and all this from the TTB, the 704 gin's coming out probably in the next 2 months.
Oh, that's pretty quick. That's awesome. Yeah. We'll be looking for that.
Not to mention really good hand sanitizer. We got gold medal in San Francisco. That was the best hand sanitizer I'd ever Ryan the distiller was said we just got to make hand sanitizer. We have this base ethanol, and I said we're not doing that, And eventually, because everyone was jumping on it and saying, "Look at us, we're doing this, we're helping, we're cool." I said, "I just don't want to be that guy, And then my old man was chief of police back in Ireland, and but when the cops came to us and says, "Listen, can you help us out? We need this stuff," I said, "Okay, we just have to do it now. We have all the right permits. We just have to do it." And so every batch we made, we did 50% donation, and we sold at 50%. But I tell you what, it kept the light on for 2 months. The sales of that stuff.
That's what we had heard from a couple other people. Is that was what was it kind of bridged the gap from just getting by to rather being in the hole for that. So that's awesome. That you guys are doing that. And we've seen other distilleries. It's almost become like a collector's game for hand sanitizer from distilleries. It sounds weird, but we know people who will be like asking, like, can I get the hand sanitizer from there, or drive to like different states and pick it up? I'm like, I would have only done that for the booze, but I mean, drive whatever you want to pick up, you go ahead and do it.
I tell you what, this when the craze kind of died down and Johnson & Johnson caught up, but this is when you actually need it. This is breadfest right now. What's going on, So if you ever need hand sanitizer, this is the time to get it.
Let's see here. Wheels had one question. That one whiskey you were talking about that you had only about 60 bottles of, that was at cask strength. Do you know when you'll be releasing that?
Yeah, we have 2 more requests and for cask strength samples, and I've yet to fulfill them because I haven't been back in the rack house in a while. I've been busy running a box truck moving stuff, and once I get back into the rack house, I'll pull them out. We've one going to one of the, I can't remember what his name is now, one of the social media guys in Florida. And then Frugals have said they'll take another one anytime we're ready. And we still have, believe it or not, barrel number 1 sitting back there that we barreled in 2014. So I don't know what's in it. But
Is that waiting for like a 10-year anniversary maybe? Or
I don't think there's going to be anything left in it in a 10-year anniversary. It might happen that special release, that we all just drank ourselves. But we've only ever harvested 4 bottles out of that barrel. And most of them went to there's a local cancer hospital here, the Levine Children's Cancer Hospital. And I think the last bottle got 700 and something bucks in an auction. So it's anytime we pull a bottle of Rua out of that barrel, it's cast strength, it gets its label, and it's that bottle, because the next year we pull it, it's going to taste different, right? It's one of one, So it usually pulls in a few bucks for some good charity. So that's what that barrel's job is.
that's awesome. I mean, no, that's fantastic that you're doing stuff like that and getting that raising that type of money. I mean, that's really sweet to be pulling that. Let's see here. Just want to check one other thing. I don't think I'm missing any other questions in the chat, and if I did miss them, I am sorry. As always, I haven't even been drinking that much as I normally do tonight, so you can't really blame that on the booze tonight. But thank you, Ollie, for stopping in. We appreciate you coming on. Like we said, we usually don't want to keep people too late, because we just appreciate that you came on, because we really love the Rua and can't wait to try, like you said, the gin and some of the other stuff you have coming out. Quins. But yeah, we really thought the Rua was something special when we had it, and if it even gets older at some point, like you said, not you're up to the 53-gallon barrels, can only imagine what's going to happen. So we think there's wide open, and you wait till Christmas before you jack up the price so we can get some of those get the case and stuff that we were talking about.
All right, lads. Well, listen, thanks a million for having me on. Have a great night here, and I'll speak to you soon. I had a good time. I wouldn't mind coming back.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. And anytime if you got something new coming out like the gin or something, want to come on and talk about it, we'd be more than happy to have you come on and talk about anything you guys got going on or coming out, or if you're doing like a special release like you're talking about for some children's hospitals and stuff, just to get the word out there, we'd be more than happy to have you back on.
This is NPR, right?
Yes.
That's actually the way I was changing the beginning of the show, and I didn't do it. It's the new intro is welcome to your favorite public service or public access whiskey review channel, My Whiskey Den. But
all right, lad.
everyone,
I hope I didn't offend anybody. Apologies if I did, but it's just I am who I am. So sorry about that. I don't mean it.
No, don't worry about that. You did perfectly fine. No worries with that, especially with our crowd.
All right.
But we want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say goodbye, good luck, and good night, and sweet dreams, and drink some more Rua because I need the money. All right.
All right, we can do that. And for everyone else out there, remember, it's not the size of the den that matters; it's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Some more.